long as you love me. As long as you love me. As long as you love me. I got my eyes on you, it's so down. Pick up some food with your hand up right now. I got my eyes on you, it's so down. Pick up some food with your hand up.
Always spinning my head. It don't even matter what you think you said. 'Cause I got my eyes on you, watch out. Make the wrong move and you lose, no doubt. 'Cause it's scary. Yeah. You know it's scary. Yeah. Watch out.
As long as you love me. As long as you love me. As long as you love me.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Week 10 Waiver Wire live stream. We have to just get the taste out of our mouth of a disgusting Week 9. So we are here to bring you perhaps not the most exciting Waiver Wire discussion ever, but still one that we are going to rock the house with. It is me here. It is Lauren Carpenter there. Lauren Carpenter, how are you doing today?
I'm recovering from week 9. That was horrendous on so many aspects of being not fun, but it's okay. New week, new set of circumstances. Let's move on.
It was crazy. So obviously, we are going to do better in Week 10, just so you know, not even Waiver Wire, but I will mention that we do the Start-Sit live streams in addition to the Waiver Wire live streams. We do the Start-Sit live streams on Sunday morning. I'm going to be filling in for Yates again this Sunday at noon, again, here at youtube.com/FantasyPros. And you're going to want to tune into that one because we are doing a live giveaway during it. Again, November 14th, this Sunday, courtesy of our friends over at pristineauction.com. One lucky YouTube subscriber is going to receive an autographed Saquon Barkley New York Giants jersey. To enter is very simple. Subscribe here to our YouTube channel here at youtube.com/FantasyPros. before that live stream begins. Again, noon on Sunday morning. Ask a fantasy-related question in the YouTube chat during that show. And that's it. We're going to announce a winner at the end of the stream, so make sure you stick around to claim your prize. Lauren, let's just very quickly get to the news that came across our desk right before we started live here, which is that both Nick Chubb and Demetric Felton have tested positive for COVID-19. Both are vaccinated, so it sounds as if, from the very little information that we have right now, that they're not necessarily out this weekend on Sunday. But Dearness Johnson, I don't know what his rostered percentage is, but let's assume that he is out there in a league. Does he vault with this news to your number one running back pickup of the week?
I would say yes, if he is available. I know that he was a very hot waiver wire ad a few weeks ago, so I believe it's unlikely. I can actually look up those stats right after this if you would like
Do
me
it,
to
yes.
do so.
Yep.
But yeah, I think he should be a grab if for some reason he's available. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm just checking. Yeah, they've got a little bit. Also, John Kelly, somebody was out there. So again, who knows whether or not Dearness Johnson will be good to go. But if he is available, and I agree, it seems unlikely. You can look it up, find out what the percentage is. But I think he was probably rostered. Okay, so Dearness Johnson, let's say, is gone. I don't know, Lauren. It's not the best running back waiver wire week, but that's where most people need help. So why don't we start with running back right there? Ooh, I do have a couple of things. I don't know if you have looked, Lauren, but I have available in 39% of Yahoo leagues, 46% of ESPN leagues. So that
Yeah.
is more available than I expected. So
I just saw those same numbers too there. That is a lot more than expected. Looks like I'm gonna have some rearrange some of my waiver priorities here.
yeah,
Because
let's get on
it's
that.
like 2016 called. It wants all of their players back. Please.
Yeah, so that's obviously we saw what this is just crazy, man, this whole year. But regardless, all right, let me ask you something. Forget about the actual individual right now. Is the top waiver wire pickup for you overall this week a running back?
In this particular instance, yes, it is.
Okay.
It is a running back.
Who
All right.
is it?
I am going to go with the one who has. This normally goes completely against my mantra of always stay away from this team. However, this person has been getting the touches, and this person has a very juicy matchup in week 10 if you need to fill in for injury or bye week or, God forbid, COVID. It's Devonta Freeman. Like,
Sure.
why
Absolutely.
are we having this conversation? Unbelievable. But yeah, he has been getting the touches. Le'Veon Bell will be there to sniper those goal line touchdowns. Lamar Jackson is always going to be using his legs. That's not even an issue. But they have completely phased out Tyson Williams. He's gone. He's just might as well just kick him off the team because they don't use him. He doesn't see the field whatsoever. So yeah, for me, it's going to be Devonta Freeman. I don't believe this is going to be a rest of season type of thing because we're still not sure what's going on with Latavius Murray. So this is all really a shot in the dark here, but I feel the most comfortable shooting in the dark, I guess, with Devonta Freeman in this situation, even though going with a Ravens running back is always very, very tough. But in this one, it's proven to be more of a trend instead of a fluke over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you for sure. If he is available, and he's rostered in a lot of leagues at this point, but if he is available, for sure he's got to be up there because it's a Thursday night game this week. So we know for sure. I mean, he hasn't been ruled out, but Latavius Murray still hasn't practiced yet with the high ankle sprain. He's not going to play on Thursday. So it's still going to be Freeman. I mean, Le'Veon Bell looked okay, but it is him. He's the guy. And he looks good, by the way, Lauren. Don't you think? Like, you watch him run and it's like fountain of youth over there.
Well, the first week I saw him in there, I was like, oh, this was a terrible idea. But then he
Correct.
started to get a little bit better and better. And yeah, it does look like he has a little bit more of his spunk back in his little pep in his step back again. So it's nice to see. I do, as an aged person myself, I do like to see those veterans come. Don't give me that look. Coming in and making some waves. So go Devonta Freeman. But I think, especially with this matchup against Miami, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, you say you're an aged person. I say hold my beer. Yeah, I agree. I do think that this is correct for Freeman for sure if he is out there. He's really, to me, Lauren, let's stick with running backs for a second. He's, to me, there are a couple of intriguing names out there, guys who might be able to help you. But Freeman, to me, is the guy. Who else are you looking at running back?
Okay, so this one is going to be another wild card, but it's one that I do firmly believe in, and I really like his usage. But it's Ty Johnson of the Jets. I really, really like what he's been able to bring to the table, even though this is still Michael Carter's backfield. So I am not arguing that point. in the slightest. And the wild card that I bring up here is whether or not Zach Wilson is going to be able to utilize Ty Johnson like Mike White has been able to do and like Josh Johnson has been able to do. And there's still a slight question mark as to whether Zach Wilson will be coming back for week 10 or if they're going to stick with Mike White for one more week. Either way, I hope that Zach Wilson has learned that he can do some dump off passes to someone like Ty Johnson, and he's going to make something happen with it. So I really, really like Ty Johnson. However, if one of these two players hadn't suffered a head injury, which always sounds very, very dramatic,
No.
Ramondre Stevenson is someone that I really, really like as well, who has been carving out a role for himself in that offense. But I'm just worried about the concussion protocol issues, and this could be a Brandon Bolden week because Damian Harris also had a head injury. So that those two knock it down just a little bit for me with Ty Johnson, who I believe has a ton of explosiveness in him.
So I like everything you're saying right now. Number one,
Yay.
I do think that this week, at least for the Jets, it is still going to be Mike White. Nothing has been declared, but reading the tea leaves at this
Yes.
point, it sounds like they want to give Zach Wilson an extra week, which frankly they should against the Bills. Like, why throw this poor kid out there right now against like can you imagine how angry the Bills are going to be in this game after losing to Jacksonville right now? Like, I would fear for Zach Wilson's knee that still needs to be recovered. And look, the Bills are a great defense, but with how much Mike White targets the running back position, 44%, like Ty Johnson at this point is somebody who you are going to need to consider. And in a week where you're missing some running backs here, might want to start. I agree with you, by the way. I'm really, really interested in that. Hopefully we get a little clarity on that running back situation in New England, because if Damian Harris is out, but Ramondre Stevenson is in, that makes Stevenson to me somebody who's very intriguing. If both those guys are out, I mean, Brandon Bolden's got to be considered a starter this week, right? In this sort of, against the fact that they're going to dump off to the running backs like nonstop, I think Bolden would be a starter if both Stevenson and Harris were out, don't you think?
Yeah, he's going to have to be. Like, that's weird, right?
Yeah,
Let's just
it's
hope
crazy.
that the clarity doesn't get clearer until after waivers process. And you just go pick up Brandon Bolden on free agency.
I do wonder whether or not Ramondre Stevenson has has long-term value, Lauren. What do you think of that? Because he has looked good when he's factored in. He's still a healthy scratch every once in a while, which is just weird. But he has looked good. He's factored into the passing game a little bit more. Let's assume everybody's healthy. Do you think Stevenson could have long-term value beyond just this week?
I think his long-term value is likely going to be somewhat of a flex appeal in a really good matchup, but I would hang on to him as a stash because you never know what's going to happen to Damian Harris. He runs angry, very
Yeah.
angry. So you never know when it's going to be he's gonna have to miss time or whatever, then Stevenson is gonna be your guy. So I think hanging on to him for sure, whether or not he's gonna be an automatic start, I don't think so. That maybe a matchup base is a flex opportunity.
Yeah, okay. So I'll say for everybody watching right now, thank you for joining us. Go ahead and drop a like if you would like. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so you can comment in the channel. We really appreciate that as well. And we will get to questions. So if you're asking them now, even though we're going to get to questions in a little bit, our producer is trying to make sure he gets some questions that we can ask later. So continue to ask them now. And even if they're not answered immediately, stay tuned till the end because we are going to get there in the second half. Lauren, let me throw another name out at you. We know now that Chase Edmonds is going to miss some time, may go on IR, so he's definitely out at least this week. James Conner totally carried the load, but Benjamin got involved, and he had like a big boy run there where he, trucked one of the defenders, got into the end zone. He doesn't have a lot of work. It's not a great matchup here with Carolina, but chances are he's probably going to get a little bit of run in this game. Any interest in picking up Benjamin?
No, I'm not chasing the points on Benjamin here for me. This is a little bit too out of the possibility of where I can rely on, right? So I just feel like this is way too much chasing points with Benjamin. And don't get me wrong, he looked great. Like you said, he had his big boy run. In fact, I believe he won Angry Runs from Good Morning Football this morning, which I was watching as I was walking on the treadmill and writing an article at the same time because I multitask. That is my life. But yeah, I don't love this one. I think that there are other options that are available on the waiver wire that'll be a little bit safer than trying to rely on a guy like Benjamin, who really reminded me a lot of Ito Smith from the Falcons, like back in the day, or yeah, it was the Falcons, I believe. So potential, but I don't really know how much that's going to be relied upon because also don't forget, Kyler Murray wasn't in this game. DeAndre Hopkins wasn't in this game. This was a very different looking offense than what we're really used to. So I'm not sure how much I can rely and really extrapolate out of this game and project moving forward. So I'm going to avoid Eno Benjamin.
All right, let's talk about another name that Lauren, here, I have this dilemma in a league where I am desperate for running back. I am considering using my waiver claim to pick up Jordan Howard here, who again has just continued to factor in, and he was the better running back for the Eagles, better than Boston Scott, got more work, scored another touchdown. Now has Denver, who is definitely beatable on the ground. The Eagles are committing to the run. Any interest in picking up Jordan Howard?
Absolutely. I had interest picking up Jordan Howard last week because of what he was able to do in years past with the Eagles, and also because his identity is completely different from Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott. Right? He's a completely different type of runner. So while they're going to try to play some fun fertilizing, watering, sprinkle games or whatever with Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott, they're not going to be able to do that with Jordan Howard because he just does not fit into that same mold. But he fits into a mold that is desperately needed in that room, in the backfield room, I should say, and also on the field. He also got 5 more carries than he did the week before. He was literally activated off the couch, practice squad, and got 12 carries and 2 touchdowns. And then he got 17 carries in this game with a touchdown. So it's not like this was a weird thing. I think this is going to be a trend as long as Miles Sanders is out. So Jordan Howard is definitely one that I really like this weekend. Like you said, they play Denver, beatable on the ground, especially with someone with Jordan Howard's skill set. So yeah, absolutely. It's weird. Literally my 2 favorite running backs to pick up, aside from Ty Johnson, are Jordan Howard and Devonta Freeman. Literally, what year is it?
I think
don't
that
know.
is very appropriate given how crazy this past week
Crazy.
was. No, I agree. I'm targeting Jordan Howard here on the waiver wire just because, look, the Eagles now have a formula: 31 pass attempts over the last 2 games for Jalen Hurts, and he was averaging more than that per game prior to this coming in. So I do think that they want to lean on the run. They will go with who is the better runner, and right now that is Jordan Howard. So
Mm-hmm.
they're going to go with him, and I like him around the goal line. Anybody else, Lauren, at running back? I mean, we've already talked about Ty Johnson, both Patriots guys, Benjamin, Jordan Howard, Devontae Freeman. Anybody else at running back, or time to move
I'll
to wide receiver?
I'll
Good.
go ahead and throw 2 names out here that are honorable mentions. Carlos Hyde, obviously he got the volume. Urban Meyer loves him and despises James Robinson. So any excuse that Urban Meyers gets to actually play Carlos Hyde, he's going to take. But this is going to be for as an insurance policy. And the same goes with Sony Michel, who I just do not think is all that great when it comes to explosivity in the backfield for the Rams. But we had a scare with Daryl Henderson,
Yep.
and that was nerve wracking, and it's going to fall to Sony Michel. So those are 2 names that if you have the room and you don't need other places, or let's say they're available possibly after waivers claim, you can pick them up as kind of a safety valve.
I do think that this is the point in the season where I feel like we have, haves and have nots. Like a lot of people know whether or not they're going to make the playoffs or are at least trending in that direction.
How did
But
we get here so fast?
it's
Like, how
crazy.
did we get to week 10 already? What
It
is
re-
happening?
It reminds me of the old saying that you have with kids where the days are long but the years are fast or something, which is
Yeah,
basically like
it's a great
that
song.
the grind of like going through each week and doing the rankings and doing everything. It feels like it takes long, but then at the same time you're like, "Oh my god, how did we get already to week 10 more than halfway through
Yes.
the season?" Crazy. We do have the extra week this week, which is great. But the one thing I would say is that at this point in the season, I do think that the insurance policy backs take on extra importance because
Yes.
they can be league winners. And if you get into the playoffs, even if they're not your own, by the way, that's something, Lauren, that I think people are like, well,
Mhm.
I have Henderson. I should roster Michelle. Yeah, that's fine. But also, if you have Henderson, or if you don't have Henderson, you should roster Michelle. If you don't have Zeke, you should still roster Tony Pollard. If you don't have
Mhm.
Cook, you should still roster Alexander Madison because you give yourself even more chances of having those locked in
Absolutely.
running backs. So I agree. All right, wide receiver, Lauren, what do you think? Who's your top wide receiver this week?
All right. This is really tough for me because I really want to say Elijah Moore. I really want to say Elijah Moore for the Jets.
Hmm.
However, we're still going back to that argument with the wild card of Zach Wilson. And I don't know what it is that he's going to do. And we're also talking about Corey Davis, whether or not he is going to be seeing the field or he's going to be sidelined again. But Elijah Moore has the talent, and he was really able to explode in that game like we have been waiting and waiting and waiting for him to do. So while I love Elijah Moore, there are a couple other opportunities I think that you could look at, and one of them is going to be Russell Gage for the Falcons. Now, Olamide, because I just figured out how to say his name, Olamide Zacchaeus. He was the one that had the flashy numbers, right, with the 2 touchdowns, and it was like, oh, there he goes, it's Zacchaeus, but he only had 3 targets. And it was Russell Gage who actually had a bigger chunk of targets. I believe it was around 9. So he's the one that I think I want to pick up in this Falcons offense that are going to have to try to figure out what they're going to do outside of Cordell Patterson and Kyle Pitts. And I believe that person is going to be Russell Gage. But it's murky for me this week when it comes to the wide receivers because there's also someone like Deshaun Jackson, who is going to be with the Raiders, filling in a much needed void for them with the Raiders. But then there's also Van Jefferson, who is filling in the void of Deshaun Jackson for the Rams. There's lots of boom or bust opportunities this week for the wide receivers, which is why I'm more on the murky side and I'm not 100%. I have to have this one dude. If there's going to be anyone out of there, I think I might take a look at either Traquan Smith or Russell Gage, but I'm not excited about any of these this week.
I would say that this week is probably the least excited I've been at wide receiver in a while. To me, Lauren, I don't think any of these guys, again, we talk about fab percentages as if they matter at this point. Like you bid what you need to bid based on who else is right, how much everybody else has. But I don't think any of these guys are more than 5%. So, you didn't name the guy who's the top on mine. And maybe I'm not sure if you don't like him or I'm not sure if, he's too rostered. Because from what I'm looking at, I've got him as 53.3% rostered. That's Brandon Ayuk, who had a couple of good games. So A, were you considering Ayuk? And B, if so, are you off it because we've just seen him struggle for the vast majority of the season?
I do love Brandon Ayuk, and the reason I didn't bring him in that conversation is from what I've looked at. I don't like anything that's above that 40% threshold, and I've seen him on a lot of rosters. But yes, Brandon Ayuk is someone I think that you can pick up. And one of the things, actually, Jake Seeley and I talked about this. Kyle Shanahan is usually pretty solid when it comes to I want X player to do X, Y, and Z. So he really needed, he meaning Kyle Shanahan, needed Brandon Ayuk to step up to the plate and start proving that he was the guy that he was last season. The only thing that I don't like about the situation with Brandon Ayuk, which is very small, it's just that he still is going to have to compete with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, which may cap his upside a little bit. But now that he's kind of gotten his NFL legs underneath him finally, and we are seeing the 49ers utilize him a little bit more. It started off with a 2-point conversion and then just kept on going from there. I do like Brandon Ayuk, but I kind of considered him already rostered. But if he's available, he is a wide receiver that you can get excited about.
Yeah, I do think that the fact is it's going to be very difficult to find guaranteed weekly production from all of George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, right?
And Tim Patrick is another name I can throw out there too when it comes. Not very exciting. It's not exciting. It's not flashy, but he continues to get it done, even with Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton together on the field, healthy. If anything, having both of them on the field and healthy is helping Tim Patrick. And he's the one that Teddy Bridgewater is looking at for some of those big plays, just like we saw over the weekend. So Tim Patrick is another one. I believe he's 30% fewer rostered. Yeah, not super exciting, but when you need a safe floor, Tim Patrick can usually get it done for you.
Yeah, I love Tim Patrick as a player. I always think like, okay, well, you've got Courtland Sutton, you've got Jerry Jeudy. When Noah Fant returns, you've got Noah Fant. Is there room for Tim Patrick? But the bottom line, Lauren, is even in a low volume offense, he is out there basically every snap. He is running a route basically every single time that they have a pass play. So there is more production there that I'm surprised about, really, generally speaking. I want to ask two guys that I think we've probably talked about for the last couple of weeks, but are still pretty widely available. Again, they may come in above your threshold from where you're sort of thinking. One is
I'm very stingy, aren't I?
No, I used to actually
you have to be available in 90% of leagues to be on my list.
Right. You actually have to have 0% roster percentage. 0. Nobody rostered you. Only then will I. Right, Keelan Cole. Everybody go get him. No, there's my grandmother rosters him, so we're out there. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
Rashad Bateman. I've got him at 30.5% across the leagues, again, that are imported here for us. So Rashad Bateman, assuming he is available in your leagues, where would you prioritize him, do you think, among wide receivers?
I would put him just behind Brandon Ayuk, and I do very much like Rashad Bateman. He's been incredibly impressive, not only as a rookie wide receiver coming into the league, but for someone who was going to get eased into the offense after missing training camp and like most of the beginning of the season. Yeah. He was just like, "Hi, I'm here, boo!" And I'm exploding. Awesome. And he's done really well. The only thing, too, is that remember Rashad Bateman is going to be the wide receiver 3 or the third pass catching option, I should say, behind Marquise Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews. but he is still getting it done as well. And he's seeing those looks even in a run heavy offense like the Ravens have. But yeah, he's been very impressive. I do like him.
I do think we're at the point
I
right
picked
now
him up everywhere I could.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't believe he's still
Last week.
I can't believe that he's still, available in this many
Mhm.
leagues, but it is what it is. So I think that we're at the point with the Ravens offense where you can support 3 separate pass catchers at this
Yeah.
point with Hollywood Brown, with Mark Andrews, and with Rashad Bateman. One other guy that we've talked about a few times, he's rostered in a bunch of leagues, Michael Gallup, finally coming back this week. What do you think?
I like it. I think that he is going to be one of the few opportunities available on the waiver wire this week that can or could provide you a safe floor. But I want to see how well he is going to be getting involved in this offense and ousting Dalton Schultz, because Dalton Schultz has done a very good job of creating chemistry with Dak Prescott and being a reliable option. But Michael Gallup is Michael Gallup. He is really, really good. So I really want to see him in action. I have no problem scooping him up. I'm not, again, 100% excited about it. However, there is opportunity because CeeDee Lamb might be a little bit banged up. So he is an option that could fill in very quickly and have an increased number of looks depending on what happens with that wide receiving core.
Yeah, I do think that the stock is up for Gallup for a couple
Yep.
of reasons. Number one, obviously Blake Jarwin's injury, I think, makes it a little less likely that they're going to continue to run these 2 tight end sets. I think you're going to
Yep.
see a lot more 11 personnel, which is what they used to run before Gallup's injury anyway. And number two, you're right, the CeeDee Lamb sort of injury that he's going to play through and he's going to be okay. But I do think that that's going to just improve the stock for Gallup. They get the Falcons here. That's, a spot that he can definitely succeed in. I don't know if I'd start him yet coming off this week, but certainly someone to add. All right. Anybody else at wide receiver? We hit on a lot. We've hit on Brandon Ayuk, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, Van Jefferson. Ooh, I do have one other name. Michael Gallup, Tim Patrick, Deshaun Jackson, Russell Gage, Traquan Smith. We've hit a ton of people. Anybody else? I have one other name that I can throw at you.
Oh man, there's 2, and it's from the Saints. Which one do you want to do? Deontay Harris or Marquez Callaway? I mean,
I'm interested in Deontay Harris a little bit because I feel like Harris should be playing more is what I do.
Yeah,
I mean, I know he's small, but I feel like he should be playing more.
I struggle with this so much because of the quarterback position. What are they? They're like, we're not
Yeah.
benching Trevor Siemian, but we're still not going to say who the starting quarterback is. Whatever. Because if it's Taysom Hill, I want to rely on Traquan Smith just a little bit more, just because of, whatever they have going on. But then Marquez Callaway is always going to be your boom or bust, and he can give you a 2-touchdown game. But then here comes Deontay Harris, who's kind of like, hi, I'm suddenly playing the slot, and then now I'm out wide, and then now I'm doing this, and I'm getting targets all the time. It's crazy. I
Right.
don't know what's going on with the Saints, which is why I want to backpedal. And if I'm going to take any one of those guys, I think I'm going to go Traquan Smith. Why? I don't know. Maybe just because I know him better. I don't know. And like he's my bestie or something. It's just so confusing between those 3 wide receivers.
I have no idea what they're doing in New Orleans, like in terms of
I don't think they know what they're doing.
I don't think they do either. We'll see what happens. Here's another name I want to throw at you. What about Donovan Peoples-Jones? He had the big touchdown
Yes.
catch in this one. OBJ's out the door. People are excited about him. Baker Mayfield, you look at his numbers when he targets Donovan Peoples-Jones, it is elite. So what do you think about him as a potential pickup?
I love this. I love this. He doesn't get a huge amount of targets, but he is able to make beautiful things happen on the few targets that he gets. And when they are looking at stretching the field and when they need to make big plays, they meaning the Browns, when they need to make those plays, when they need to stretch the field, when they need to score, they look for Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Baker Mayfield finds him consistently. So he's one of those guys that may be one of those rare unicorns, if you will, that is a high upside player that can usually get it done, because the Browns aren't, even in a positive game script, they still found Donovan Peoples-Jones for those big plays. And it's a run-first offense, I get it, but that just means that it allows them to stretch the field with defenses way too focused on the run game. Although this week might be a little bit tough.
Yeah, I do think that Peoples-Jones is a guy you can add. And we do have some people asking in the chat about OBJ, considering he'll get claimed by someone. We don't know who it is. If he's available right now in your league, are you even bothering picking up OBJ, or are you just letting him sit out there?
I am hanging on to OBJ if you have him. If you want to play the game, then yeah, but it looks like he may be going to Seattle. So, what are his options going to be for fantasy football in Seattle? He will likely still be behind Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. That's going to be curious. So, I want to, if I have him, I'm going to hang on to him. I don't know if I'm going to waste any one of my waiver priorities to go get him. That's tough. That is very, very tough. But Russell Wilson is pushing to get OBJ on the team. So it's interesting. I don't know if I believe in it
Yeah,
for fantasy.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'd be surprised if he really makes an impact this season. All right, let's finish up with grossness. Any quarterbacks at all that you think are worth picking up this week? I think the one benefit we have is that the teams that are on bye aren't really huge fantasy, impact quarterbacks or anything like that. But if you need one, anybody who you're out there looking for.
All right, Taysom Hill. I think if you have the opportunity to stash him, because likely the Saints will start going back to Taysom Hill, and he has the opportunity to give you QB1 numbers when he uses his legs. So he may not be playing this week, but he's just someone that you should be stashing. If at all possible, if Carson Wentz is available, he is rostered in 60% of leagues. He has an excellent matchup this week against Jacksonville, who I believe are like 9th worst against quarterbacks. And also Matt Ryan, 55% rostered. He is really starting to get his act together here, even without Calvin Ridley, but he has a lot of options, especially with the ridiculousness that is Cordell Patterson. Humble brag right over here about how much I loved Cordell Patterson. They're able to make some magic there, but it is gross. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa is another name, but we don't know what's going on with his
Right.
injury. So it's not pretty this week for streaming quarterbacks. But
Nope.
if you can, I would try to stash Taysom Hill.
They're gonna turn to him, right, Lauren? Like they're gonna. I don't understand why they didn't this weekend. Like this is what I expected for them to start him.
I have no
they're-
idea. It
All right.
doesn't really make any sense. If anything, maybe it was just to keep Taysom Hill a little bit more healthy, possibly for the remainder of the season, because he was just coming off of the concussion and they just wanted to give him a little bit more time. Plus, they kind of wanted to see what they had in Trevor Siemian, I suppose. But why?
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know. They're going to have to go back to Taysom Hill, in my humble opinion.
At some point. How about tight end, Lauren? There are some intriguing options, I think, in my opinion. You have anybody you have your eye on?
Okay, I have one that I do truly adore, and that is going to be Tyler Conklin. I like Tyler Conklin. I am convinced. I was a naysayer in the beginning, but I'm turning around. I'm turning around. And it's not necessarily the stat line at the end of the game that really has changed my opinion on Tyler Conklin. It's the fact that Kirk Cousins looks for him. And he looks for him in clutch situations. And it's only a matter of time before that starts translating into the end zone. Now, don't forget, he will be behind Adam Thielen. He's going to be behind Justin Jefferson and also KJ Osborne. But he is really making, and he's physical. He's a physical, big guy. So he's going for contested catches, and Kirk Cousins is really starting to rely on him, which I do like to see. 35-ish% rostered.
Yep.
But I'm going to throw out another name here. This is going to be a spicy one. You ready?
I'm ready.
Do you have your water and things to douse yourself with?
It's always ready to go. Go ahead.
Jeff Swaim. Let's do it.
Sorry. Jeff Swaim is your guy, huh? All right.
He's not necessarily my guy, but he's someone that I am curious about. And if you happen to have the room, maybe you want to stream the position. I don't know. But the last 2 games, and we're talking about without a Derrick Henry. Now, they're going to have to try to do something differently on offense. No matter how it is, they're going to try to stick to the run as much as possible with Adrian Peterson and Jeremy McNichols. It is impossible to create a human being that is Derrick Henry without cyborg parts and tank things on there, and with multiple human beings combined to one. That is how you get Derrick Henry. So they're going to have to get little creative. And he's been looking, meaning Ryan Tannehill has been looking Jeff Swaim's direction several times over the past few weeks. So I'm wondering how long this is going to continue. Remember, Derrick Henry's likely not coming back this season, fantasy season, I should say. So he's one to keep an eye on, not necessarily for your redraft rosters, but keep an eye on him for super value plays in DFS, or if you're in deeper leagues in redraft, then I like Jeff Swaim. He's there and he makes it happen, especially in the end zone, man. Touchdown dependent, but still interesting.
He scored touchdowns in back-to-back games for sure. So a lot of people are asking, and he's too rostered to be talked about, at least in mine, because people picked him up. But people love Pat Freiermuth. How excited are you about Pat Freiermuth going forward?
Oh, Hearts and kisses. That's one of the reasons I did not bring him up, is because he
Yep.
is heavily
It
rostered
is.
in all of the leagues that I'm in. But if he is for some reason available, Pat Fryermuth should be your number one tight end pickup. Absolutely. In
Yeah.
a terrible matchup against tight ends, he scored 2 touchdowns. And Ben Roethlisberger really likes to hit those players that he has developed a trust in. And that is Pat Fryermuth. I don't know if you saw this at the end of the game, but he threw this contested catch into the end zone. Pat Fryermuth somehow comes down with it yet again. And the look on Ben Roethlisberger's face was like, yeah, yep, that's about right. Like, what did you just do to this poor man? And he's just like, yep, that's Pat Fryermuth. That's what he does. Like, no, I
I
really like Pat Fryermuth.
I think that's the biggest thing is that Ben trusts him, especially
Absolutely.
in the end zone. And again, Chase Claypool got a little banged up in that game. If he has to miss any time, that only puts his stock through the roof. But this is a locked in, definitely startable weekly tight end for me. How about Logan Thomas here? Sounds like he's going to be able to come back this week. Has a pretty favorable schedule in Washington for the rest of the year. Any interest in adding him?
Absolutely. Logan Thomas is one of those players that can get it done no matter who is in a quarterback. So hopefully he's already rostered, because if he's for some reason out on your waiver wire, that is a disaster. That's a shame. Go get him. Get him.
Yeah.
Start him up. Plug him in. I
Yeah.
very much like Logan Thomas.
He's available in about 50% of leagues from our
Sad.
vantage point. I know.
Can
I
I
love
be
him too.
in those leagues? Because
Yeah.
I want like, stop
Jump
it.
in. Last guy I'll ask you about, Dan Arnold, getting targets pretty consistently with Jacksonville. Gets Indy this week, but he's a guy who I see a lot of fantasy managers asking me questions about adding. Any interest in him?
I get the questions because of the targets, but this is Jacksonville. No, I do not have interest in Dan Arnold. That's just one of those I can't get excited. I can't get on board with it. I'm staying away.
All right, let's get into some questions. And again, just you can comment here in our chat. Our producer is monitoring. I'm monitoring. We will answer as many as we possibly can. You have to be a subscriber to ask a question. So if you haven't subscribed, if you're just here checking this out, go ahead. Just click the subscribe button. Easy way to support the show. And go ahead and drop us a like as well. That also helps us. Let's get to it. Lauren, a lot of people here. I'll ask Hunter's question, Hunter Lockwood. I don't know if they're high on Javonte Williams, if they're concerned about Javonte Williams because of Melvin Gordon's continuing to get it done as well, even though Williams had a great game. What are your overall thoughts rest of season on Javonte Williams?
I like Javonte Williams. Don't drop him. If his workload doesn't even increase, he is still a very, very juicy flex opportunity. So I like Javonte Williams. I think it should get better for him, but even if it doesn't, you're talking still he has production. And I don't know if it's just me because I haven't looked at their touches, but it looks like they're starting to get even more like even and closer with their touches. In the second half, we usually see a lot more Javonte Williams than we do Melvin Gordon. So keep the faith. I like Javonte Williams quite a bit.
Yeah, Williams, Gordon this week had 21 carries, which is crazy. But
Yes.
yeah, generally it's still 50-50. I think the way I would come down on it is if you are expecting the Javonte Williams run away with this backfield and take over completely, that's not going to happen so long as Melvin Gordon is healthy. But I think that just makes both of them kind of, low end RB2s most week. They do have some injuries on the offensive line. But again, I think you're starting them every single week. You just got to get that giant ceiling part of it out of your head because, I don't think that's coming. From Brian, do you feel comfortable dropping either or both of Kenneth Gainwell and Zach Ertz?
I would not drop Zach Ertz, but I don't have a problem dropping Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah, I would drop Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, Ertz to me just falls into this like borderline startable tight end. So I would play the matchups personally. I do think he has the highest upside, generally speaking, especially with DeAndre Hopkins, nursing his injury and everything like that.
Let me clarify that just really quick.
Sure.
If you have to drop Zach Ertz in order to play somebody that you have to play, then I can make the argument to drop Zach Ertz. But I wouldn't just drop him willy-nilly to pick up someone who only has a decent matchup type of thing. I like Zach Ertz a little bit more, but Kenny Gainwell, yes, you can drop.
I think for me, we're talking about guys like Tyler Conklin being widely available on the waiver wire. So when you've got that, I don't feel any loyalty to holding on to Zach Ertz because I don't think he's going to be like that much better than Tyler Conklin, for example, rest of season. So I'm more willing to move on. From Bradley, with Chase Edmonds going on IR soon, do you think that you have any reason to hold him if you need flexibility because of buys?
Oof. That is really tough. Try to get him into your IR spot because Chase Edmonds he's an integral part of that offense, and he's not done for the season. So I would try to hang on to him by any means necessary.
Yeah, I would too. And again, they have a bye, so he might miss as few as 2 games here going forward. In which case, yeah, he could be a difference maker if he does recover in the 3 weeks and is able to kind of just come back and step into
Because
his
don't
normal
forget,
role.
James Conner isn't necessarily known for his sustainability being the bruised up, banged up running back like he was in Pittsburgh. He needs help. So they're going to be featuring Chase Edmonds when he's back and healthy. So it's not like he's gone for the year.
Yeah, from Claire Bouchard, would you drop Kadarius Toney or Khalil Herbert to activate David Montgomery?
I would drop I dropped Kadarius Toney. I can't believe I just said that out loud. That's harsh. I would hang on to both Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery because you never know. He is one injury away from having Khalil Herbert be a monster in fantasy again. So I'd rather play it safe on this one. And the Giants are sometimes trying to use Kadarius Toney the way they should be using Kadarius Toney, but I have no faith in Daniel Jones at all. So in your situation, what I would do if that were my decision, I would try to keep both of those Bears running backs as much as it hurts my soul to have to drop Kadarius Toney.
All right, from Travis, please, pretty please,
Ooh,
just to make
okay.
that clear. So
With
he needs
cherries?
help. He didn't say cherry, so if you want to
Okay.
just tank this answer, I will allow it.
Next, moving on.
Do you trust DJ Moore rest of season, or
Oh,
should I look for
no.
trade partners?
I don't trust DJ Moore at all, but good luck trying to trade him away for anything more than like some toenail clippings. This is going to be really, really hard as long as Sam Darnold keeps playing like stinky garbage. Plus, he's getting an MRI on his shoulder, so it could be PJ Walker. No, I have no faith in DJ Moore rest of season. So if he happens to have a really good game, trade him like immediately.
Out of curiosity, does your outlook on DJ Moore change in any way if Sam Darnold is out and it is PJ Walker? Because I feel like mine is just kind of the same.
It's
I
kind of
don't
the
feel great.
same. It's kind of
Yeah.
the same. It does elevate it actually a little bit, to
That's what
be
I'm
totally
asking.
honest with you. And plus, we have Christian McCaffrey back, so this is going to help the offense significantly, which does help DJ Moore improve. But I don't trust him rest of season. Will he have some good games? Sure, but when he does have one, hopefully before your trade deadline, you can get rid of that headache and then not have to worry about it. But don't trade him before, otherwise you're not going to get anything good in return.
I think that's the issue with trying to trade him away, is that his value is just probably at kind of an all-time low right now,
Yes.
just given how many games it's been since he's really been a big producer. He's a guy who you don't feel great about, but he's probably going to be a guy who you start most weeks, but I would wait for one decent game, have him find the end zone, and then I would move on if I could.
Same.
So you answered part of this, I think, but Todd Vogan asks, is it time to get ties with Kadarius Toney and Rondell Moore? Could either be a league winner?
They could? Question mark? This is tough because we're talking about almost the exact same player, right? Just two completely different teams. Out of any of them, I might want to trust Rondale Moore a little bit more because I really like Kyler Murray without any AJ Green, who's on COVID, but he's coming back. It's not like he's out for the season. Lots of things going on here. But yeah, if you need to make room for guys that aren't just a boom or bust play, but you may need a little bit more safety or you need a little bit more consistent volume, I have no problem dropping either one of these guys. Who you drop is going to depend on who you like the best, because for me, that's a coin toss between Rondale Moore and Kadarius Toney. It's hard for me to say which one. It just depends on who it is that they're going to be playing that week that will put one above the other. So yeah, you definitely can drop them. Again, it's not a situation that I love because I think that they do have opportunity, but we're talking about getting close to the playoffs here where wins are a necessity, and these guys just are not consistent enough to have them as someone reliable in my roster.
Yeah, I think if I had to move on from one, it would probably be Rondell Moore. I love Rondell Moore as a talent,
I
but
know.
his average depth of target is like 1 yard. They're just not doing what they need to do. I
And
think.
that's the opposite of what he is made to do.
Yeah. So for me, I don't see it happening right now with Rondell Moore. There at least is the possibility for Toney, especially after a bye week, if he can stay healthy. So I'd rather cut Rondell Moore in that one. From Jose Barraza, tough trade question here. Now that CMC is back and one of, if not the single top player right now in fantasy, would you trade him to acquire Ezekiel Elliott plus Marquise Brown in PPR?
That is really tough. If you
Yeah.
need, I can see where this could work if you are in need of a wide receiver like Marquise Brown. Now, that is tough because I talk about boom or bust, and that's kind of what we have in Marquise Hollywood Brown, especially now that we have Rashad Bateman with the Ravens. I don't know if I would do this. I don't know if I would do this just because Christian McCaffrey in PPR in any format is dominant. And I don't necessarily know if relying on Ezekiel Elliott and Marquise Hollywood Brown is going to make up for what you could have gotten with one player that now you're going to take up 2 roster spots to potentially get the same amount of points. I get it, but I think I would stay away from that one.
I think for me, it depends on who Hollywood Brown replaces in your lineup. Essentially, like if it's CMC and
Very
just
dependent, yes.
right, if I have to just stream a wide receiver each and every week, then that might be worth it for me. But if I'm replacing like a fairly reliable wide receiver, then it might not be. But it's very tough. And with CMC there, like let's not forget just how dominant he's able to be again. He played roughly half the snaps and still had a fantastic game last week,
Yes.
even with how poorly Sam Darnold is playing. Jay will ask something which actually I was looking into. I haven't seen anything. Do we have he picked up Kareem Hunt off the waiver wire. I guess somebody dropped him. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Do you have any timetable? Are you aware of anything that suggests when they're going to be back? Because I've seen radio silence on Hunt, and I know Edwards-Helaire still hasn't even been, designated to return, so his 21-day practice window isn't even open yet.
Agreed. I have not heard anything.
Yeah. I mean, he's 8-1. So if you are, like, you're in great spot. Like, no reason to rush. Just hang on to both. You'll make the playoffs. That's good. But in terms of how soon they're going to be back, very up in the air. Louise Link asks, need help with the defense? Have San Francisco. They've been killing me. Available to pick up are the Browns, the Titans, the Packers, or the Seahawks. Lauren, I will say that I was looking at the Titans defense recently because the Titans have been really impressive of late. Multiple sacks, multiple turnovers, double-digit performances in 4 of their last 5. And now they get the Saints this week. And I know, we like the Saints, but of course, like without the, normal quarterback situation, they're a defense that you can score points against. So I've been trying to pick up Tennessee in a lot of leagues. What do you think?
What were the 3 that you read off there that he has?
The Browns, the Packers, or the Seahawks.
Ooh. Okay. I don't like any of those. Interesting one this week, the Eagles. They're only 7% rostered, so if you really need to try to swap out one, they're 7% rostered. They play Houston, who 10th worst. They've allowed a lot of points to opposing defenses, so I like the Eagles. They are widely available. Also, one that I'm really excited for this game coming up. That is Raiders Chiefs. Like they have such a crazy rivalry going on. I don't mind taking a shot on the Raiders defense because Patrick Mahomes leads the league in turnovers. They're not looking any better, even though they've been winning, which is kind of weird. So I think the Raiders might have a chance to feast here. So I do like the Raiders as well.
Yeah, the Raiders are an underrated defense. They
are.
Disappointed
Max
right now. But
Crosby.
what is happening with the Chiefs? I don't know. I don't know whether or not we're a defense that an offense that you can pick on from DSTs. Andrew C says that I have both Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams, but I don't need to play either one of them this week at all. Would you drop Williams to add Odell Beckham Jr. if you are very weak at wide receiver?
If you're very weak at wide receiver, I would try to look elsewhere than Odell Beckham Jr. But yes, you can drop one of them. I would drop Williams over Clyde Edwards-Helaire since you don't need to play either one of them, and you want to really stick with the RB1 there, in my opinion. But you should probably look elsewhere. We already mentioned our wide receivers there that you should probably look at because I would have more faith in someone like Deshaun Jackson. I have more faith in Deshaun Jackson than I do in Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, let's talk about this. Is actually a good question, I think, because it kind of crystallizes exactly how much we value the available wide receivers who are out there. Luis Gonzalez says, is 9-0 in my league. I need to improve, though, my flex options. Right now, I have Kadarius Toney, Corey Davis, and Marvin Jones as wide receiver options. Would you drop any of those guys if you could add either Tim Patrick, Elijah Moore, or Rashad Bateman?
No.
Yeah.
No. I don't know if I would because that's a lateral move, I think. So you're just kind of swapping one player for the other just without a name, except for Corey Davis because he's hurt. But no, I like Marvin Jones. I like Marvin Jones a lot. He has high upside here. So yeah, I don't know if I would do that.
Yeah, I think I would probably hold. I mean, Jones is really, Jones should be better than he is the way I sort of feel, especially without DJ Chark. But yeah, I think I'm holding as well. All right, let's go to. Oh, we did talk about that, but there are a couple other options here. Okay. Kroll, the Warrior Princess, need to stream a quarterback this week. My waiver wire options are, we talked about some of them, but not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Heineke, Baker Mayfield, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Trevor Lawrence, or Teddy Bridgewater. What do you think, Lauren? Of those options, who do you think makes the best pickup this week?
Oh man, Baker Mayfield is interesting because I really, really like his matchup. However, I don't really know what's going to happen without a Nick Chubb there to provide a little bit of safety
Right.
for what's going on with that whole offense. If Matt Ryan is available, I would do it.
Yeah.
They're playing Dallas, and Dallas is, I think, 10th worst against opposing quarterbacks. And Matt Ryan has really started to get his mojo back, and he's getting things done. So out of all of those, I would go ahead and pick up and stream Matt Ryan with confidence.
Yeah, this is a week to stream Matt Ryan. I didn't think we would
Mhm.
get there, but he looked great against a very difficult defense.
Do I need to
in
send
New
you some
Orleans.
chicken noodle soup?
Yeah. Oh, you definitely need to
Poor
send me
Dan.
something. I'm totally fine. This is my 8th podcast in the last 24 hours, or not even a podcast stream. So I apologize to all. If you would like to, sort of send some good vibes, give us a like, give us a subscription. That's all me and my producer and Lauren care about at this point. Okay. Ivan Drago back from Russia after losing the world championship to Rocky. Half PPR, trade Tyreek Hill for Tyler Lockett and James Conner. He needs help at running back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
I feel like I might do it. I feel like I might
think
do it,
you would
Lauren.
too, but the only thing that worries me is what is going to happen to Tyler Lockett when Odell Beckham Jr. joins the Seahawks. I say when, flippantly. That's the rumor right now. But Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs, my reservation here is that it's very difficult for me to believe that this downward spiral that the Chiefs are going through is going to continue throughout the entirety of the season. And you might want to have someone like Tyreek Hill on your squad when it comes to the playoffs. That's the only thing that really makes me nervous. But at the same time, if you need help at running back, James Conner is going to be very explosive, at least over the next few weeks. So I don't hate this. I wonder if there's another wide receiver you can get besides Lockett, but I think it's fair. And if you need running back help, this is a fair deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that Russell Wilson being back just boosts the value of Lockett, regardless of OBJ. I do think, and we don't know that Seattle's going to claim him. The overwhelming likelihood appears to be, given the order and given where OBJ seems like he would be willing to go and who would want him, it will be Seattle. But we'll have to see. I will ask our producer to, if you have time, to look up the rostered percentage of Devin Singletary, because there is a question about him, and I want to know it. Obviously, we have Zach Moss potentially dealing with a concussion here, Lauren. So we've got C. Griffin saying, why isn't anyone talking about Singletary? Now, my guess is Singletary is too rostered to make sort of a waiver wire show like this. But there are a lot of people out there who are just like, I'm not starting Devin Singletary. I don't care about Devin Singletary. I don't want to do this. They get the Jets this week. If Zach Moss is out, like, how excited would you be about Devin Singletary? By the way, I do have the roster percentage from our wonderful producer, Chris. 64% on Yahoo. Oh, we've already got the face there from Lauren. 64% on Yahoo, 58% on ESPN. So he is available in about a third of leagues. Lauren, sounds like you are not buying Devin Singletary.
No. You shouldn't have bought into Zach Moss. Don't buy into Devin Singletary. Stop it. No.
Let me tell you something, kiddo. All right. Where I am in a league, if Devin Singletary is available, Devin Singletary is about to become my best running back.
If you're desperate, I get it. But am I going to be jumping out of my chair because I got Devin Singletary that I get to start? No, I'm going to be taking Pepto and eating cookie dough to make myself feel better.
I rostered Dearness Johnson in that league, so now I feel like, okay, which by
so
the way.
So now Dearness Johnson is your number one over Devin Singletary.
Oh, my number one. Let's go all day long. I would say, look, against the Jets, I mean, come on. Like, you got to, if he's the only guy there, I would start him. But I do think that the likelihood is that the goal line back, and there will be many goal line opportunities in that game. Will be Josh Allen. I think there would be a little bit of a cap there. Okay. How about Batmac Gaming? Do I trade Mahomes and Tyreek Hill for Dak Prescott, T. Higgins, and DeAndre Hopkins?
Whew. Yeah.
I think you got to do that. Yeah.
I think you do.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't believe we're living in a world here like that. But yeah. I would.
I think you got to do it. I realize that it feels like you're selling low because you're no longer selling, the Chiefs at their absolute apex of their
You're
prices.
You're
But
buying low on Dak
yeah,
Prescott, though,
I
in my
like it.
opinion. I
Yeah.
like that, especially with T. Higgins. I don't think T. Higgins is going to disappear, even with Jamar Chase. We've
Oh no,
already
not at
seen that
all.
happen,
Yep.
so he's safe.
Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins is your boomer bust, but he's DeAndre Hopkins, man. He's freaking amazing. So yeah, I think this is an incredibly fair trade, and I think it works well. Yeah, I would take that.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. How about this one, Lauren? Because these are two receivers who I don't want to drop, but this person says that he or she has to. Danny O'Reilly, drop one. Julio Jones or Hunter Renfrow.
Ooh, Oh, I really like Hunter Renfrow,
Yeah.
especially with this news with Henry Ruggs now that he is not on the team anymore. Getting replaced with Deshaun Jackson is a step in the right direction, but they're going to need to rely on Hunter Renfrow even more than they have already. He is going to be your safety guy that has the opportunity to see high ceiling production weeks, whereas Julio Jones is either there or he's not. So in this situation, you might want to drop Julio Jones, which sounds blasphemous, but
Yeah.
that's kind of where we're going at right now.
I do like Julio Jones. I actually think he is a buy low, but it's really hard for me to take him over a guy like Renfro. I mean, I
Right.
don't. I realize that Deshaun Jackson coming in, he will sort of fill the role of Henry Ruggs, but not as well. It's Deshaun Jackson at this point in his career, so I still do think that Hunter Renfro is going to see the increased target volume that he did see this past week against the Giants, and that makes it really, really difficult to drop him.
Mhm.
Ryan Joswick says, do you think there's going to be any value in T.Y. Hilton if he plays either this week or just generally speaking for the rest of the
Yes.
season?
Yeah, I'll throw a big yes in there. He saw 4 targets, I think either way, he had 4 receptions, I think, for, like, 80 yards or something ridiculous in his first game back. Yes, he is a field stretcher. It just depends on when he's on the field to stretch it. But, yes, there absolutely is value to T.Y. Hilton. He is one of those boomer bust guys that is more likely to boom than bust as long as he's healthy and playing. So, yeah, I don't mind hanging on to or picking up T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, I would really like to see what everything looks like in that receiving core when they're all healthy for an extended period of time. Like, I love Michael Pittman Jr., but I do want to see what happens when T.Y. Hilton is actually healthy for a while now. He is still not cleared concussion protocol, at least
Correct.
as of today, so he may not play this week. But long term, he's somebody who I think in deeper leagues you can keep your eye on.
Yes.
Let me ask from Stephen Bode or Bodie. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Emmanuel Sanders. So this is a guy who I really liked coming in. He produced very well. Last few games hasn't quite been that good. He's looking more pedestrian than he was at the start of the season. If you don't need a start, do you prefer Brandon Ayuk or would you rather hold on to Emmanuel Sanders?
I think I would go Brandon Ayuk here. I think I would go Brandon Ayuk. Oh, I love Emmanuel Sanders too, but I lean Ayuk just a hair.
Yeah, this is getting closer for me.
It's
I
hard.
think
Yeah.
I think I'm still with Sanders because I do think there's still upside there, but I admit right now with Cole Beasley sort of getting more involved, taking a bigger target share, I don't know whether or not that changes when Dawson Knox gets back, but I still lean towards Sanders, but it is closer. A couple of tight ends here who are all sort of in the borderline startable option. You have to choose one, Lauren, for your rest
Oh,
of season.
okay.
Half PPR format from Jacob Glazer, Dawson Knox, Dallas Goddard,
Mm,
Noah Fant, or
mm.
Logan Thomas. Dun, dun,
Oh no, this
dun.
is so hard. Okay, Dawson Knox. I can't. This is so hard because I
Yeah,
love Logan Thomas so much, and I love Dallas Goddard
yeah,
so much. I changed my mind. Dallas Goddard.
yeah. I like it. That way to
Oh,
rethink.
that was
It's fine.
hard. That was
I
really
do think
hard.
that
Whew.
everybody
Am
except
I
for Noah
sweating
Fant.
now?
Yeah, I think I think you're still doing okay. If people are looking at you and not me, I think we're doing much better than we otherwise would be. I would say that Noah Fant for me is the clear kind of loser in that. Like he's the guy I'm least interested in.
He's not
I
a
Not a loser. I meant the loser of the
I'm just giving
4
you
of
a hard
them. All right. I would never, ever call somebody who's much better at playing football than I am at doing anything in my life a
time.
loser.
I know,
But
Dan.
I will say this. I think it's Goddard for me just because
Mhm.
I realize that the pass attempts are down, but it's clear those pass attempts are just going to Devontae Smith or Dallas Goddard, and that's unique for a tight end. I don't have a problem with Knox. I don't have a problem with Logan Thomas. I love them all, but
Mhm.
I think I will go with Goddard. A couple of people actually asking this exact question. Mongrel
Hmm.
says, Would you, if you already roster Michael Gallup, would you hold on to Michael Gallup this week, or would you drop him for Brandon Ayuk?
I would hang on to Michael Gallup.
Yeah, it's close for me. I mean, I do think that there's a lot of potential here with Michael Gallup going forward. Brandon Ayuk obviously has, a lot of upside at this point, but I think he probably needs that injury ahead of him to have tons of value. Rosario Carini asks, would you pick up Tim Patrick or Jacoby Myers if Myers was out there?
Tim Patrick.
Yeah. What do you think about Jacoby Myers, by the way? Does he need to be rostered at all at this point? Because he's
I'm
gone
so
from a guy,
heartbroken. I'm
right?
heartbroken that he cannot find the end zone. What is happening? Like,
I mean, I
what
think
is
it's
happening?
I
He's
believe
gonna
it's
have to at some point, right?
I believe this is the most receiving yards ever for a receiver to have not found the end zone. That I think that's an actual NFL record that he has set at this
It's
point.
crazy.
So I know it is really bad. Would you trade from a one? Would you trade Aaron Jones for Devontae Adams straight up?
Trade away Aaron Jones to get Devontae Adams?
Correct.
Yes, I would do that.
Yeah, I
It's
think
hard though. You have to be okay at running back though. You have got to be solid at running back. But yes, I do believe that you can if you need a wide receiver, he's the best wide receiver that there is. So this is one of those times when I usually never say trade away a running back to not get another running back in return. But this is one of those rare instances where I think that's okay.
I think the bottom line is that that's a totally fair deal for me. I think for me, it's so hard to find that reliable running back one in your lineup, right? So you've really got to have a lot of depth. And again, we just saw Nick Chubb going on the COVID list. The fact that is always a risk for these teams, that can happen on any given week to any given player, no matter what. And so having the crazy running back depth is really important. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us here again in a difficult waiver wire week after a really, really weird week 9. She is Lauren Carpenter. Lauren, thank you so much. I'm so glad you are back from missing that 1 week where I had to do this with Yates, and it might have been the worst week of my life.
Oh no!
The
I'm back.
best.
I'm
Whatever.
not going anywhere.
All right, wonderful. We'll be back, with more content. Don't forget about the giveaway this Sunday, November 14th. At noon, our Start Sit live stream, which I will be doing. We'll be giving away a signed Saquon Barkley jersey. All you got to do is make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel before that live stream begins, and then ask a fantasy-related question during that live stream, and then we will randomly draw a name and announce a winner at the end of that live stream. So don't forget that. Thank you very much for stopping by, everybody. Lauren and I personally together will talk to you again next week.